Alexander the Great was born Alexander III of Macedon on July 20th, 356 BCE, to parents Philip II and Olympias, king and queen of Macedon. From a young age, Alex proved to be a military genius and an effective leader. Well educated by Aristotle and even King Leonidas of Sparta, Alex commanded the Macedonian army in his father's absence twice, once to put down the Mede revolt in 340, and later defeating the Greeks in 338 in the Battle of Chaeronea. In the year 336, Philip II was mysteriously assassinated at a wedding ceremony, leaving Alexander as one of the many heirs to the throne. In order to secure his power to the throne, Alexander murdered many of his political rivals, including 2 Macedonian princes and his cousin. His mother also played a role in the mass murder by killing off many of Philip's other children. Historians have also speculated that Alexander may have held a part in Philip's assassination, but is still not known to this day. Soon after he came to power, Alex set out to do what his father could not do, conquer Persia. So Alex set out with the Macedonian army and his mighty steed, Bucephalus, and went off to conquer the world.
Please marry me.
However, first he had to deal with issues at home. As soon as Philip died, the Greek city-states began to question the Macedonian authority and planned to retake control of the Corinthian League. Powerful city-states such as Sparta and Athens began advocating for independence from Macedonia. In the city-state of Thebes, the Thebians began to lead a revolt, and the Athenians and Spartans had already pledged their loyalty to the cause. Upon hearing the news, Alex marched his entire army to Thebes, covering 240 miles in 2 weeks, leaving the city no time to organize to defend themselves. Athens and Sparta also withdrew from the conflict because they were amazed at Alex's speed and organization. Alex destroyed the city of Thebes, killing 6,000 people and selling the rest into slavery. Thebes is meant to be an example to the other city-states to submit to the Macedonian Empire. From then on, the Greek states would provide men and supplies for Alex's army. In 334, Alex and his army approached the Hellespont, the strait between Greece and Anatolia. As Alex the Great approached the coast of Asia Minor, he threw a spear from his ship into the soil, claiming all of Asia for Macedonia. Alex faced off against the Persian army of King Darius III at the Granicus River in Asia Minor. The Macedonians utterly demolished the Persian army, and Alex the Great had finally entered Persia. In 333, Alex came to the town of Gordium, the location of the legendary Gordian knot. The myth stated that whoever could loosen the knot would rule all of Asia. Alex tried to loosen the knot and was unsuccessful, so he just took his sword and cut the knot. Alex made his way through Persia into modern-day Syria when he encountered the Persian army again at the Battle of Issus in 333. The Persian army of King Darius III vastly outnumbered Alex's army, yet Alex was able to defeat the Persians and send Darius home limping, also capturing Darius's wife and daughters. The Roman historian Quintus Curtius Rufus wrote about the battle, saying, "The Macedonians were the world's liberators, and one day they would pass the frontiers set by Hercules and Fatherly Bear, and they would subdue all races on earth." Alexander continued his campaign into Persia, conquering areas such as Phoenicia and Syria, and laying siege to the cities of Tyre and Gaza before moving on to Egypt. The conquest of Egypt was a relatively simple one. When Alexander entered Egypt in 331 BCE, the Persian satrap surrendered, and Alex was welcomed by the many Egyptians as a liberator from Persian rule, and was even declared the son of Amun-Ra, the sun god, and crowned pharaoh of Egypt. After he left Egypt, Alexander and his army resumed their conquest of Persia, conquering most of Mesopotamia when, on October 1st, 331 BCE, Alexander began one of the most important battles of his career, the Battle of Gaugamela. Gaugamela, which means the camel's house, was a village on the bank of the river Blue Modus in present-day northern Iraq. Initially, Alex's plan was to march straight into Babylon, but when he learned of Darius's position at Gaugamela, he eagerly changed route. Alex knew that if he could defeat the king at Gaugamela, all of Persia would be his. The Persians were also aware of this fact. The outcome of this battle would mean control of the important cities such as Babylon, Susa, and Persepolis. First, Darius offered Alex a deal, half of the Persian Empire and even his daughter's hand in marriage, if Alex returned his family to him who had been captured at the Battle of Issus. But Alexander refused and said there could never be two sons. Alex set up camp several miles from Darius's army. The estimates of Darius' army count would range from 50,000 to 100,000 to almost 1,000,000. It was said there were even 15 war elephants among them. Alex's army seemed vastly outnumbered, but the Macedonians did not lose hope. Alex inspired each one of his soldiers to fight. The two armies met at Gaugamela and the battle began. The Persians began the offensive, but the Macedonian use of the phalanx proved to be too strong. Alex then capitalized on the gaps in the Persian ranks, making their way to Darius III.
Merge into the gap, forcing their way through the line. The phalanx is the anvil. The cavalry is now the hammer. The Persian infantry is smashed between them. The Macedonian phalanx find no resistance. They charge forward. The Persian army breaks and begins to run.
Seeing his men fall apart before him, Darius fled the scene of the battle, giving the young Macedonian king perhaps the most important victory of his career. Alex was now king of Persia. While Darius fled to Bactria, one of the satrapies of Persia, he was later killed by one of his own satraps. Alex spent a brief time in India, invading regional kingdoms throughout northern India, disrupting local rule. India was also where Alex's horse and longtime companion, Bucephalus, died. In memory, Alex named the city Bucephalia after his fallen horse. As the army approached the Indus River, the army was tired after 9 constant years of fighting, and then returned to Persia. Soon after he returned to Persia, Alex threw a victory banquet in Babylon, but then later fell ill. Historians believe that Alex could have contracted malaria from his conquests in India, or have been poisoned by one of his enemies. Alex later died at the age of 32 on June 13, 323 BCE. After his death, Alex the Great's empire split into 3 parts: the Antigonid Empire, Greece, the Ptolemaic Empire, Egypt, and the Seleucid Empire, Persia. Alex's empire led to the birth of Hellenism. This massive cultural blending of Greek, Persian, and Egyptian cultures led to many important achievements, discoveries, and art that have lasted throughout the ages. The age of Hellenism was the birth of new forms of thinking, such as Epicureanism, Stoicism, and skepticism, instead of traditional polytheism. New discoveries were made, such as Euclidean geometry and the Archimedes principle. Greek language is more widely spoken and popular throughout the empire. Some examples of art, literature, and architecture of Hellenism include the Venus de Milo, the Colossus of Rhodes, Jason the Argonauts, and the Temple of Zeus in Olympia. Alexander's conquests of India led to the birth of the Maurya Empire after he disrupted the regional kingdoms and local rulers of the northern India. The end of Hellenism came with the Battle of Actium in 31 BCE with the end of the Roman Republic, but Hellenistic ideas and forms of art would go on to later influence future civilizations and movements such as the Renaissance, Enlightenment, and the Scientific Revolution, and continue to be parts of thinking today. In conclusion, Alexander the Great was in fact a great man who brought the world together under a single empire in a way that had never been done before, and future leaders such as Charlemagne would want to emulate his greatness.
Alex was the greatest, Alex was the best. Alex was a warrior on a quest to conquer the world. He won a lot of wars, invaded Persia in 34. His father was Philip, his mother was Olympias, was taught by Leonidas and learned the art of war. He was taught by Aristotle, so of course he held his part. So now Alexander is standing in the Hall of Fame. The world already knows his name. Conquers places like child's play. The whole world knows his name. That's why he's living in the hall. The Battle of Britannica Alex was 22, defeated Persians and the Greeks too. Alex was a hero, as very few men faced and beat Darius again and again. At the Battle of Nisus, there was a mountain pass. Alex was outnumbered by the Persian men. Alex won the battle, legitimized his name. The people know why Alex is standing in the Hall of Fame. The whole world knows his name. Burns like the brightest flame. The whole world knows his name. He'll be on the walls of the Hall of Fame. Started Hellenism. Started Hellenism. Started Hellenism. Started Hellenism. Future leaders in history always want to emulate his greatness. Future leaders in history always want to emulate his greatness. Future leaders in history always want a horse like Bucephalus. Future leaders in history always want a horse like Bucephalus. Standing in the Hall of Fame.